What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get
From
to it.
simple to complex, let's start with belts. No matter how it is, but most often they are the ones that really whistle. Of course, the timing belt cannot whistle, it is toothed, but all other belts of additional units, drive or service belts, who likes it, can whistle very loudly. The cause of whistling can be different. First of all, a weak belt tension may be to blame. It is too obvious and simple. Secondly, the belt itself gets old. Over time, it gets tanned, it loses elasticity. Such a belt can no longer fit well enough to the pulley and starts to slip, even if the tension is okay. And if it is also eaten by tens of thousands of kilometers, the whistle will appear. Thirdly, the belt could just be dirty. Here you need to understand why it is dirty. If the car does not have a normal protection from the bottom, then everything is clear. Water, sand, dust, all this settles on the belt. And if water dries up quickly, the same sand cannot dry up quickly, but it is easy to chew out the belt rivulets. It also happens that something from the car leaks onto the belt: oil, antifreeze, or brake fluid. The latter, of course, is unlikely, but still. And if antifreeze or brake fluid, most likely, will not do much harm, but engine oil is quite aggressive, corroding the belt material. If there is oil in the belt, it should be replaced. And, of course, only after the cause of its splashing is found and eliminated. Since it is not only the belt that can whistle, it is also necessary to make sure that it is the belt that is causing the squeal. The easiest way is to splash water on it. If the belt is just frozen from age, it may help a little. But it may not, because if it is weakened, the whistling will become even stronger. But you can at least realize by the change of sound that there is something wrong with the belt. It is especially convenient if there is more than one drive belt. Water will help to find out which belt is whistling. Well, and if it doesn't work, it won't be a big deal. The water will just dry up. With the now fashionable sprays for belts, the situation is more complicated. Theoretically, these sprays are designed not so much to diagnose the problem as to solve it. The composition of the spray usually lists a funny ingredient like pine tree resin. Resin is nothing but ordinary rosin, which costs 20 times cheaper than the spray. However, it is difficult to apply it on the belt, but the principle of action is exactly the same: increasing friction. The spray also contains alcohol, which can soften the belt a bit. It seems that the recipe is perfect. The hardened belt gets elasticity, and the resin increases friction. But life is not all so serene. No one knows how long an old belt will last after treating it with alcohol. Maybe it'll rip after a couple days. It happens. Well, rosin is even worse. Yes, the belt will stick to the pulley much better. But the spray forms a sticky layer on the inner surface of the belt, which attracts not only the pulley, but also all the crap from the road, dust, sand, and everything else. All this also greatly reduces its service life. As a result, there is an effect from the spray, and sometimes it can really help. But you should not spray it on the belt endlessly. That's why I would refer this spray first of all to diagnostic tools, not repair tools. If it helps, then you need to change the belt, and at the same time you need to clean the pulley grooves from resin. Repairing the belt with this chemistry is like going to the Statue of Liberty every day with a bouquet of roses, hoping that she will throw away the torch, accept the flowers, and kiss you on the cheek. You can also spray the belt with regular Vidashka. If the whistle is gone, it's the belt that's whistling, not something else. It's the wrong belt. The most probable and at the same time difficult to diagnose cause of whistling from under the hood is a slipping alternator belt. The most probable reason is that it is very difficult for the alternator belt to rotate, especially if a large number of consumers are switched on. In this case, the increased resistance of the magnetic field prevents the rotation, so if the whistle occurs when turning on powerful consumers, for example, windshield heater, the cause of the whistle is definitely the generator belt. Another way to be sure of whistling from the alternator belt side is to sharply press the throttle and sharply release it. If it whistles exactly under the gas release, as a rule, the cause is the alternator belt. Of course, this method makes sense to use only on cars with several belts. If there is only one belt, it is the one that whistles, everything is clear. The difficulty of diagnostics is that sometimes it is not so much the belt itself that is to blame for slippage, but thickened lubrication of the alternator bearings. It is especially relevant now, in winter and in cold, who already has it in this winter. So, if the belt looks good, the time of its replacement according to the regulations has not approached, but the whistle is still there, then we will have to think that the reason is not in it, but in the generator. However, a short whistle after starting in frost is not critical. The main thing is that it should disappear within a few seconds. What if it is not the belt? Unfortunately, the belt is the least of the evils that can whistle and squeal. Anything powered by a belt spins. And if it does, it has bearings. And here's the tricky part, determining which bearing is whistling. Rollers, tension and parasitic, pump, alternator, air conditioner compressor. A lot of things can whistle there. How to find it? The most consistent ones start by dropping the drive belt. If, for example, the whistling or squeaking remains, then look at what can sing from the timing belt. It may be the rollers of the belt itself, or it may be the pump, if it is driven by this belt. If the whistle is gone, the belt is good and does not react to spraying it with vodashka, water, or spray, then we are looking for the machine that makes the nasty sound. There are different methods here. The simplest is to pump all pulleys and rollers manually, trying to detect backlash. Sometimes this method works, but in this case the wear of the bearing must already be very large. Or maybe it is almost non-existent, and the reason, again in thickened or missing grease. Then this method will not work. The second method is to use a stethoscope. Not everyone has one, but if desired, it can be made from an old medical phonendoscope and a piece of suitable thick wire, nail, electrode. Any metal bar of suitable diameter. And if it is too difficult, then a universal diagnostic device called a wooden stick will do. The device is elementary, but very effective. The only pity is that you have to get used to it. So, we take any wooden stick, better from hard and dry wood, a piece of wooden plinth, shovel scoop, anything, but with one sharpened edge, and put one end of it to the axis of the roller, and the second, clenched in a fist, to the ear. And listen. It is impossible to make a mistake with the stick, but there are two very important notes. Sometimes it is difficult to get to the right roller. Often, it is impossible at all, and if you poke the stick anywhere, you can stick it under the belt. In the best case it will tear. In the worst case it will maim the person who sticks it in the wrong place. So you have to use the stick wisely. The method is very garage and grandfatherly, not suitable for everyone. What to do with rollers and bearings, everyone decides for himself. Sometimes it is actually enough to renew the grease, and sometimes only replacement helps. The main thing is to do it in time. Imagine if on your car one belt spins both the pump and some generator. In case of belt breakage, you can drive home without charging for 50 kilometers, but without a pump you will not be able to drive at all. So it is better to be reinsured. Do no harm. Not in vain they say that the best is the enemy of the good. It happens that in an attempt to eliminate some non-critical malfunction make only worse. Trying to tighten the belt is one such operation that can lead to some collapse. Belt tension is not taken from the ceiling. If the belt is tensioned looser than it should be, it slips. And if it is tighter, it significantly reduces the life of the rollers and unit bearings. The tension should be strictly set by the factory. If the belt looks like a piece of junk, you should not tighten it. Most likely, it will continue to whistle, but it is very likely to topple aside some other quite working bearing. It is not worth trying to tighten an old belt that is nearing the end of its service life. It may still look very good, but its material has lost elasticity due to old age and cannot grip the pulley well. In this case, excessive tension will also cause damage. The same applies to analogues of all sorts of lousy quality. It is clear that to give 3,000 instead of 500 rubles for an analog for some original belt is to step on your own throat. But in this case, you should be prepared for the fact that it can also serve less. Not always, of course, but quite often. And another reason for the appearance of whistling is pulleys of unknown origin. Change them rarely, but sometimes not too aptly. Mistakes are usually a little wrong with the diameter or, which also happens, with the number of streams. The diameter is not only the tension, but also a change gear ratio, with which the belt can fail and slip. But a 5-thread pulley instead of a 4-thread pulley is usually a sign of garage kolhozing. Not only can the load on the bearing change, but the belt may be skewed during installation. In this case, the whistling will be very persistent. And, finally, the last one. Extraneous sound from under the hood can appear not only for mechanical reasons, because of belts, rollers, or bearings. Sing their songs can also diode bridge of the generator. Sometimes a burnt-out exhaust manifold gasket whistles. At an early stage, the sound will also be whistling. In general, if you want to train your hearing, listen carefully. And if nothing works, then go to a service center. When this good sound comes out on its own, it may be too late. In conclusion, while a whistling noise under the hood can often lead us to suspect the belt, it's essential to consider other potential culprits such as vacuum leaks, worn gaskets, or even issues with the intake system. By taking the time to diagnose the source of the sound accurately, you can prevent more significant problems down the line. Remember, regular maintenance and prompt attention to unusual noises can save you time and money in the long run. If you're unsure, consulting a professional mechanic is always a wise choice. Stay informed and keep your vehicle running smoothly. Thank you for watching.